like Moskowitz. My pronouns are he, him. I'm the scholar in residence sorry, I'm so tired. I am the scholar in residence for trans and queer Jewish studies at CBST, and I love being at CBST. And when we were discussing what this year's schedule could look like, I have had this desire to be able to justify spending time exploring more of the spiritual makeup of each month for my own pleasure. But then once it's work, so then, it's easily justifiable. I do it for my job. So when it came to coming up with a schedule of what to teach this year, I really selfishly wanted to be able to justify investing more time in studying these things. And so today, God willing, it'll be a monthly lecture around Rosh Chodesh, the beginning of the month. And so today, there are going to be a lot of introductions, both to the methodology, the point of departure, the intentionality, some of the kind of the basic works on this, the theological piece. None of this is meant to be persuasive. It's all meant to be informative and educational. I hope it's inspirational. For me, I find it deeply inspirational, but I hope it offers something for everybody. I'm going to pause to ask questions to make sure that we're all on the same page and that we understand, and people can ask clarifying questions. And I'm going to share my screen that we can look at the text. I want to give a little bit of an introduction to the idea of Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh means literally, Rosh means head, like Rosh Hashanah is the head of the year. Rosh Chodesh is kind of the head of the month. It's an awkward things kind of framing because months and years don't have body parts. But we're going to see that that's not so true. That indeed there are attributes that exist, just like there are gendered attributes that exist free from a body. There are other attributes that exist in the texture of time. Time within the rabbinic tradition is a construction. It's a creation. The first verse says, "Bereshis bara Elokim es," that in the beginning God created. So we really translate that as more accurately in the beginning of God's creating, and it's an ongoing process. And that creation of this world is itself a creation. That the idea that there's a beginning is a creation. There was a beginning, and there was actually a moment before beginning. Now, if the clock starts at 0, you can't have a time before 0. 0 is the beginning, if it's eternal. But part of being eternal means that there is no beginning and there's no end. So we, in this world, have a beginning, but it's a beginning. Before this beginning, there were other beginnings. And so time itself is a creation. God is above time. It's a different way of saying that. God is free from time, God created time, and God governs time. What that means is that it's a construction like anything in the physical world. When it's New York City, there's always construction here. When we started the morning Musar, we were holding by a big hole in the ground, which outside of my window, which still provided a view, but a lot of drilling. Now there's no drilling and there's no view because there's this concrete wall where there are holes, and some of it has glass, some of it doesn't. There's some orange. So it's colorful. There's blue on top of the grass. But when we think about something being constructed, you can say, this is a certain texture. This is the concrete. You can't see through it. This is the glass. It is see-through. It happens to be right now. There's a blue film on top of it. So time is the same way. Time has a texture that when we think of it as a lens, it has certain attributes which are going to be dominantly expressed and revealed, and other things which are going to be held back. I want to pause on that because that was already a lot of words. You don't have to raise your hand. Maybe it's best so that people don't talk at the same time, but just maybe if you unmute yourself, whoever has a question, I figure that it's a smart crowd. People can know how to ask. Any questions on any of that so far? Fantastic. The word chodesh means month, but the word chodesh is the same 3 letters that actually really means chadash. It means new. Unlike the sun, that doesn't have phases or changes, the moon waxes and wanes. For those who don't know, I went to public school. I know that the moon doesn't actually change, but the way in which we perceive the moon shifts. In case you were nervous, there are things that I don't know. In fact, most things I don't know. This I happen to know, that the moon doesn't change, but our perception of it does. The reason why that's so significant is that it reflects, pun intended, a much deeper truth about the month, which is, in the rabbinic tradition, when God created the moon and the sun, the moon said to God, you cannot have two kings sharing the same crown. Basically, this world is not big enough for the two of us. And what the moon had in mind is that the sun should be diminished. Let me be in charge, and and the sun you can do with something else. What's so profound about the claim from the moon is the lack of awareness that the moon has, that the moon itself does not produce any light, it only reflects it. That lack of awareness and taking up too much space is ameliorated by this punishment of a constant reminder through the shifting of within 1 month, the different phases of the moon as a constant reminder that actually you're simply a reflection. And this is emblematic of the way in which we as humans need to, within the rabbinic tradition, see ourselves as a reflection of the divine. Not just ourselves, but each other. We don't run the universe. We're not the center of it. We are not the masters of it. If we would, nothing would hurt and everybody would be happy. We're not in control. But we have agency and we have the ability to make it have an effect. And so when we see ourselves as a reflection of and not the source of, so then there's a different kind of perspective of where does my power come from? To whom am I responsible? To whom do I answer? And how am I supposed to try to prioritize what I'm supposed to be doing in this world, in this life, in any given moment? The more that we can understand our role in the world, both as who we are as unique creatures, the result of our unique life experiences, and the more that we can understand the interaction and the intersection of the world around us, the more empowered and aware we are to make more informed decisions. So that's kind of the framing. The reason why I think these types of studies are productive beyond the intellectual and academic stimulation in the world of ideas is that these insights can provide an outlook. And the outlook in the world of action, it can be impactful. When we think about Rosh Chodesh, it's a new month because there's a renewal. And what renewal teaches us and models is that we have the capacity to change. It's new because it's different. It's new because it's not the old model. It's new because it's never existed before. And once it's new and it's not permanent, and it has the ability to be altered and changed, then we have a responsibility to alter and change it for the better. This is also being recorded, and so I know that I speak not always the most clearly and the most slowly, but if something needs to get repeated or to clarify, just interrupt and say, can you say that again, or what do you mean? Because the goal of this is to provide clarity and about things which themselves are hidden. We have within the mystical tradition, and when I say the mystical tradition, I mean the mystical tradition of having many mystical traditions, a certain connection to a transmission of an aspect of the Torah that goes back to even before Moses on Mount Sinai. And I'm going to introduce you today to one of them. It's of the earliest mystical works. It's now been translated into English. It's called Sefer Yetzirah, the book of it translated as the book of creation. It's on Sefaria, which we're going to share as well. If you're looking for, I don't know if you can see it, it's Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan. He was a physicist and an Orthodox rabbi in America. I think he dies maybe in the late 80s or the mid 90s. He translated the Hebrew Bible into I think it's called like the Living Torah. He wrote a lot of different essays on outreach and science and nature. He's very authoritative. He has another book on the Behir, which is also an early mystical work that of Kabbalistic meditation, of the letters. If that's of interest, it's available in English as well. This is a fantastic, authoritative, probably the best work in English of a translation. And he acknowledges that we don't really know who the author is. What's likely is that there's a very early edition. It's a thick book, but the actual text is very small. There are, like with all manuscripts, particularly those that are that old, there are different variations. We're going to be using the Vilna Gaon, the Gra, who dies in Vilna in 1797, his edition. But the premise of the book is that of the work is that when God created this world through speech. It says in the verses, God spoke, right? God said, let there be light, and there was light. So if we can understand through speech, if we understand speech, and as a result, the Hebrew alphabet, as the building blocks of creation, if we would get the blueprints, we could also be creators. Jewish mysticism generally falls into three categories. There's the theoretical, which is what I dabble in. I'm certainly not an expert, but I spend a decent amount of the day thinking about these things. There's the meditative, which I've experimented in, but it doesn't do, I don't find it to be, for me personally, that generative. And then you've got this third kind of very elusive and probably most written about category, which is the practical Kabbalah, right? Which is Kabbalah in English is sometimes spelled in different places with a Q or with a K. Kabbalah, Kabbalah. Literally what it means is an acceptance. Moshe kibel Torah miSinai, the first line of the first Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, of our fathers, of our ancestors, is Moses received the Torah on Mount Sinai. The word Kabbalah means to receive. And what it insinuates is that we've received the tradition from those who came before. So there were mystical traditions, and there were people, for example, Maimonides, who in Egypt and in other places was not part of the mystical tradition. Just his rebbes, his teachers were not mystics. And so he has a more rationalistic type of tradition. They're not in conflict as much as the world sees them. It's a parallel track. You find allusions. So you find Sefer Seerah already quoted in the medieval time period. Rashi, one of the famous incidents with Joseph and his brothers, that they were reporting back on his father that he was eating the limb of a live animal, and Rashi brings down that this was an animal that was created through Sefer Seerah. In terms of shtetl lore, perhaps most famously is the Golem, the Maharal in Prague, I think 1600s, right, creates this shell-like human out of earth, the way in which God created us out of earth. It's just devoid of a soul. It has, through letters, and in fact, in some of these works, which are even available in English, they're recipes, right? In terms of repeating letters, you have to pay attention for hours, which is why it doesn't work so well, because we get distracted in seconds. Anyways, the reason why this is so important in terms of the months is that each month was created with a different manifestation of the divine name. The Shem Havaya, which is one of God. God has many different names. According to the Ramban, the entire Torah, from the base of Bereshis of Genesis to the Lamed of Yisrael at the end, the entire Torah is one of God's names. That's why one of the reasons why even one letter, it's now no longer God's name. So the Shem Havaya, the Yud and the Vav and the Hey and the Vav, those four letters have a total of 12 different manipulations. In the Hebrew calendar, we have 4 Rosh Hashanahs. It's the first Mishnah in Tractate Rosh Hashanah. We have a Rosh Hashanah for the years, which we have as the Rosh Hashanah, where we change the year on the calendar. But just like we have a fiscal year, we've got a different school year. So too we have a year for months. The year for months starts with Pesach. Passover is the first month in the cycle of months, and therefore God's name, the Shem Havai, is actually in order. Yud and then the Hey and the Vav and the Hey. And then the verse that corresponds to each of the 12 months. The number 12, of course, is a popular number within Jewish tradition. We have 12 tribes. And so each of the months corresponds to a certain tribe. We have in the Shemona Esrei, the 18 prayer benediction. We've got some standard ones at the beginning, some standard at the end. We've got 12 in the middle. So each of those 12 unique blessings in the weekday Shemona Esrei correspond to each of the months. And so to different letters and parts of the body, and we're going to see that all inside. So I want to give today some time to talk about the concept of months and to go through some of these particular sources, and then to spend a little bit of time talking about the month that we just started, which is Cheshvan, where God willing next month and then in all future months, we're really just going to focus on that particular. So I want to name that we're going to spend more time. We're going to spend time today on the concept of months, and then a little bit on this month. This month happens to be a great month to start with because this month is known as Cheshvan, but it's also called Mar Cheshvan. Mar means Mr. in modern Hebrew, but Mar, and also like Bar Ukva in Aramaic, but it also means bitter. And the reason why this month is bitter, does anyone know why is this month called bitter? Amy?
No holidays.
Yeah, right? And we might have overdosed, right? We might have felt like, we need a break. We had a lot, and so like it's time, but it's not, nothing's coincidental. Nothing is coincidental in Judaism. Everything has an intentionality to it. And so we need to kind of unpack why are we like front loading the year with so many holidays, right? From Elul and preparation and Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sesame Tshuva, all the things. And then we've got Simchas Torah, Sukkot, all the things, and then nothing. And then it's nothing until Chanukah, right? Really. And Chanukah is only a rabbinic festival. None of this is coincidental, and next month we're going to spend a lot on there's a lot of Torah on the months that are coming up. And Cheshvan doesn't have any festivals, so the kind of the Torah of the month of Cheshvan is in the absence of, right, and kind of acknowledging the space between. And we're going to see this reflected in the body part and also in the letter that's ascribed to this month. But I just want to kind of frame where we are in the arc of the year, that we've had all of this kind of investment in the closeness and intimacy of the divine, and now we're taking a step back. This is a principle, in English we talk about, I think it's translated as like ebbing and flowing. It's the shav, like the return. Just like that's the second half of it. Sorry, I'm spacing. Yeah, it's the waxing, the waning. It's the elasticity of coming close and stepping back. You find this very literally by the Shemona Esrei, right? We take the negative space in the art, but you see this that we take 3 steps back out of the mundane to then enter into the space of the divine. We come close in prayer, and then we step back out of it. The months of Elul and Tishrei in particular, is the time that we stepped in of prayer to be close to the divine, and now Cheshvan is actually the time that we've stepped back. And so we're going to be holding 2 things as being true simultaneously: that this is the purest we've ever been. This is the holiest, the most pristine, and it's also the most distant. And those things are both true, and one is supposed to provide for the other. Meaning the investment of Tishrei provides and frames the work that we're supposed to be doing in this month. And that's the other intention of this class, is to explore, if this is true, what then here in the world of reality, right? Because we're not just thinking creatures. Judaism is a religion of action. It's not enough to love peace, you have to pursue it. So in thinking about the brokenness of this world, I think I personally believe, to the extent that we can understand how we broke it, is a great indicator on the work that needs to happen for us to be able to restore it. Not just to repair it, but to restore it to a place from before it was broken. All right, I said a lot of things. I want to pause, and then we'll take this a little bit deeper. Questions, concerns, thoughts? Randy, is that a hand?
Yes.
Please.
Hi, Rabbi. Why isn't this the first month of the year?
Yeah, I mean, I think on some level, when we think about a new beginning, we come with a lot of excitement. It's new, it's shiny. There's a lot of energy to get it right, and God very much knows that. And you see this a lot in Proverbs, that if we sit idly, right, if we don't have anything to do, it doesn't end well. We need to be busy, right? Knowledge not increases, knowledge decreases. It's described as like, a downward escalator, right? If you're not putting in effort, right? So Cheshvan is a difficult time to find a place to put in effort, right? It's like when they start serving pumpkin stuff in August, right? You're like, it's just like, it's too early. It's too early. This is not helpful. You can't pick out your pumpkin. You can't put up your decorations. Like, what are you supposed to do? You have to just get through the rest of the summer. So I think when we think about Rosh Hashanah as the beginning of the year, and this is a deep principle that we'll speak about, 10 months from now. Why does Rosh Hashanah come before Yom Kippur? The beginning of the new year, right? Wouldn't it make sense if we have a time where we're going to be, meeting the king and being judged for the whole year? Wouldn't it make sense to first get cleansed and then go to court, not to go to court, right, and then get cleansed? All right, it's a bigger question, but I think this is on some level the response to that initial momentum that hopefully we're supposed to be generating. Just to say a little bit differently, there's a custom to wear white in many synagogues on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and there was a certain Rabbi who not only wore it on Yom Kippur but also wore it even on Simchas Torah, which is where generally there's not a custom. And he said, the reason why I wear this on Yom Kippur is because we want to be like the angels. And the reason why I wear it on Simchas Torah is that after all of this, the angels want to be like us, right? That we have something unique, which is the ability to transcend, to grow. The angels are stationary. It happens to be even in the angelic space, the angels come close to God to get kind of recharged, to get plugged in, and then they go and they come back and they go and they come back, but it's on a horizontal plane. They don't get promotions. In angel worlds, you are where you are. That's not the case. We are called hiluch, right? We're here to move. Okay. Randy, I hope that answers. Yeah?
Yes, thank you.
Always a pleasure. So the word chadash or chodesh has please, Gail, or would you prefer Malka? Just unmute if you could. I still can't hear you. Are you able to unmute?
Your statement about holding sort of two truths that seem to be in opposition simultaneously, the ones of that we experience this intensity of closeness to God, the intimacy, and then we're distant, but we need both, is so much like experiential education for kids or anybody. You do, and then you reflect, and that's where the learning comes.
Thank you for saying that. Yes, that's a beautiful framing of this month, right? Yes. Do the names of the months have their own meanings? Yes. The names of the month that we have now, they're not Hebrew months. It's Aramaic for the most part. We have the meaning that the Hebrew Bible doesn't use these months. The Hebrew Bible uses numbers in the 5th month and the 6th month, right? For the most, yeah. And so these are names that have a lot of significance, and we'll speak about each one because they carry with them all of these secrets and more. Elul very famously is Ani L'Doidi, V'Doidi Li, but all of the different months have these allusions with an A, not an I, right? This is not supposed to be smoke and mirror. This is meant to be. Okay, so we're going to speak a little bit now about Dematria Numerology. It's a lens. It's not the source of teachings, but it reflects truths within it. So there are many different types of gematrias, but the simplest is we start with the first letter Aleph. Aleph is 1, all the way to Yud, which is 10, and then it goes up in increments of 10. Chaf, the next letter is 20, all the way up to Kuf, which is 100, and then Reish is 200, Shin is 300, and then Suf is 400. And so when you have words, right, that are comprised of letters, they also have a numerical value. That's the simple interpretation. So Chadash or Chodesh is Ches. Ches is 8, Dalet is 4, that's 12, and then Shin is 300. So that's 312. By itself, it's not a number that necessarily means anything for us, but Shin Yud Beis, which is how you would write the number 312, is Shin. Ellen, it's good to see you, and it's going to be recorded, so not to worry. So the letter Shin is the prefix that means that. Shetechadesh aleinu, right? That God should renew. So the prefix is that, and then you're left with the letters Yud Beis for 12. That there are 12 is the numerical value of Chodesh. What's significant about that, or what's additionally significant, is that the numerical value of God's name, the Shem Havaya, the Yud is 10, the Vav is 6, the Hey is 5. I said it in the wrong order. It's Yud and then Hey and Vav and Hey. You have 2 Heys, that's 10. You've got a Vav, that's 6. You have a Yud, that's 10, that's 26. 26, which is the numerical value of God's name, multiplied by 12, so that's 26 times 12, is also 312, right? So the idea of Chodesh is these 12 names of God. I'll say that one more time so you don't have to repeat it on the recording. But the numerical value of the word month is 312. Chodesh has a numerical value of 312. 312 is spelled Shin Yud Beis. That's the way you write 312. The biggest number, the next biggest number, the smallest number. That can be parsed Shin, that, the prefix, Yud Beis, that there are 12. The word Chodesh has numerical value of that there are 12. Because there are 12 months. We've said that each month has its own permutation of the Shem Havaya, the 4-letter name of God, the Yud, the Vav, and the Hey, and the Vav. Nope, the Yud, the Hey, the Vav, and the Hey. So there's 2 Heys, 5 each, that's 10. You've got 1 Yud, that's an additional 10 for 20. You've got a Vav, that's 6 for a total of 26. God's name, the Shem Havaya, has a numerical value of 26. There are 12 of them, 1 for each month. 12 times 26 is also 312. The name of Chodesh, the word Chodesh. So month, the word Chodesh, right, is really, it's a renewal. And what's new about it is that there's a new manifestation of the dominant expression of the divine. What does that mean? It means we're supposed to be good people and make the world better, right? Like, it doesn't, right? That's what it means, but there's space between like that and this, right? We can acknowledge these are both true. These are numbers, it's not subjective. And then we can argue about what is good for the universe, but I think we're probably all in a similar place. And so then the work becomes, okay, so in what way is this truth relevant to this truth? So that's what I want to try to do, is I want to share what our tradition says about this and be in conversation about how does that drop down in the world of reality to make the world a better place. In the summer in New York City, you don't really need to check what the weather is because it's hot, but you get to prepare accordingly. It's worth checking, is there going to be rain? Because if you know there's going to be rain, you can bring an umbrella, you can choose not to go out. That information about the climate is helpful because it allows us to be better engaged with it. I believe so too in the texture of time. These are truths which are often expressed in hidden spaces, but one of the other truths about the hidden Torah is it's actually very revealed. The best way to conceal something is in plain sight. There are 2 different ways that tradition teaches us that we can conceal something. For those of you who are going to study Mishnah with me, you're going to learn this. The people who study Talmud with this, you know this already. To the extent that something is bulky in the text, it's awkward, it's verbose, it's repetitive, all the things. It's an indicator that there's something that's being concealed there. The bulkiness is this truth that's being hidden and pushing through, right? That which is ostensibly there to conceal it. That's one way of hiding something. You hide it underneath your external garment. Not that anyone here has tried to shoplift before, but it's not a successful way of doing it because everybody can see that there's something bulging out of your clothes. I'm not here to give pointers on how to shoplift. That's not the point. But the more sophisticated, you take off your coat, you put on the other coat, and you walk out like you're wearing a coat. Again, not to bring an example from breaking the law, but the best way to conceal something is when it's the fabric itself. So in all of the prayers that we say about the festivals, we say that this is Zman Simchasenu. Zman Simchasenu is that it's the time of happiness. Zman Matan Torah is that it's the time of the giving of the Torah. That does not mean a past tense, that this is when we received it. An easier way to understand this is perhaps by Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av. Av means father. It's not coincidental that the saddest month of the year is called Father. We need to know why, but it's not coincidental. Both temples were destroyed on the 9th of Av. The first set of tablets were destroyed. That whole period on Shavuot B'Tammuz. I'm so sorry, the dates are all in my head. The 3 weeks from Shavuot B'Tammuz, then the 17th of Tammuz to the 9th of Av, are the weeks that all the bad things have happened. It's not that Tisha B'Av is a sad day because the temples were destroyed on the 9th of Av, but because the 9th of Av is a sad day, that's why the temples were destroyed. The way that the world understands this is backwards, and that's often the reality of the mystical tradition in relationship to the revealed, is that what's revealed is the accurate truth, but it's revealed in a way that conceals the deeper truth. Meaning, when we say Zman Simchasenu, Zman Cherusenu, that Pesach is the time of liberation, we've all read that. Zman Cherusenu, that's what's in the prayer books. The deeper hidden truth is that it's an ongoing time of liberation, that we are liberated every single year on the night of Passover. It's not something that was. All right, questions on that, and then we'll go into the text. This is a safe space, I promise. We're good? Yes, Gail, I asked if you prefer Gail or Malka, but you were muted, but I didn't hear your answer.
Malka would be nice in this setting.
Beautiful, Malka.
So can you say more about the sad day? Like there's a day that was created to sort of collect all the sadness. Can you say more about that?
Yeah. Yeah. I think we probably have all had experiences with certain agencies, perhaps certain countries, where it just doesn't work. To go to this place or this thing that it's going to get fixed on the first time, it's not happening because it can't function. Why can't it function? It seems like it's supernatural, like it's not complicated. Jerusalem right now is in a space of destruction. It's got tech and it's got all sorts of amazing things, but it has in its current state a brokenness to it. Yerushalayim is Ir Shalem, right? It's a complete city. It's the city of peace. It's not the city of peace, and it's not whole. It's bifurcated and all the things. Tisha B'Av, and this goes, when we speak a little bit more about this, it'll sound less weird, but the struggle between Jacob and Esau, his brother, the twins, the struggle there was actually about who was going to be able to control time, particularly these 3 weeks. The wrestling with the divine there was actually a wrestling of kind of ownership over time. I have an article on it somewhere. What it means is that it cannot, in its current, I'll say this better, I'm making this more complicated than it is. The destruction of the temple and the current state of destruction is not a punishment as much as it's a consequence. God had a house. Everybody could come to the house. We offered up sacrifices for we offered 70 animals during Sukkot, 70 nations of the world. It was the center of the world, and it was for the benefit of the world. It was a universal temple. And the rabbis tell us that the temple was destroyed because of sinas chinam, of blatant hatred. We could not cohabitate, we couldn't coexist in God's home because as a family, because we couldn't deal with each other as siblings. And so as a result, God said, listen, it's a broken home. That's it, it's broken. You can't coexist. I'm not going to choose which one of my kids can come on any given day. I'm not living that way. You're all my children, and until you can figure it out, I'm destroying it. So it's this space of destruction, and particularly on Tisha B'Av, the rabbis tell us that we don't say tachlin, we don't say this prayer of supplication, because it's a temporary status. In the future, it will be redeemed as a moed, right? The rabbis tell us that Mashiach, the Messiah, is born on Tisha B'Av. The simple interpretation is you don't need a redeemer until you're in exile, right? So as soon as there's an exile, then there could be a redeemer. But on a deeper level, what that means is actually the source of the redemption lies in the source of the destruction. This is of the powerful teachings of the universe. The reason why the universe is broken is because we broke it, and it's on us to fix it. Yes, thank you. And Ruthie. Ruthie, are you there?
I'm there. I'm here. I just noticed that Hannah Gaffney has her hand up. I wanted to make you
Thank
aware.
you. Can I just tell you, I thought Hannah sent me a note. I'm reading the things with not my full brain. So I thought Hannah sent me a note that you had a question, but really you sent me a note that Hannah had a question. It was my fault, and thank you.
Thank you.
It's the simple things that I struggle with. You're going to find this out very quickly. Yes, please.
So my question to you is, and I'm not sure that if you started answering it or not, is so the 9th of Av, Tisha B'Av, is a sad day. When does it stop being a sad day, and when are we supposed to sort of fear 9th of Av for the rest of its life? Because if that's the case, almost every day can become one of those days.
It's a great question. In the Code of Jewish Law that was written about 500 years ago, it actually gives advice that really from the starting of the month of Av, it's a Gemara. The Gemara says, Misha nichnas Av, from the time that Av enters, or that we enter Av, it's again not coincidental language. Mematin b'simcha, we minimize our happiness. So part of that is we don't make weddings, but even there it says a person has a court case, right? You should push it off because the texture of time is that it's not a good time to get judged. And as a result of it's not a good time to get judged, the Shulchan Aruch says you shouldn't go swimming during the 9 days, right? Not for pleasure or for exercise. Sorry, not for exercise or these things, but where it could be different. People used to drown because they didn't have backyard swimming pools, right? But there's a custom already not to even do that. For some, there are exceptions if it's for health and things. But you shouldn't take trips. You shouldn't put yourself in a position where you might need a little bit more divine assistance. That might mean not driving in LA at all. Right? Things that require. So there is this idea, right? There's a time, right, where you just don't want to go out, right? Because it's not a safe time. We've had that in the course of human history. I had a Rebbe, he should live and be well. He's not so well these days. Ramat Solomon, he's the Mishkech of Lakewood. He grew up in England. When he was a young child, it was already after the war. He would tell stories that he didn't understand why when he was a young kid, people would get remarried and talk about the horrors. But he was deeply impacted by it all, obviously, meaning he grew up trying to understand the world that he had just been born after. And he said on the night of Pesach, you were not in England. You could not go outside holding a baby because of all of the ways in which people thought about, what went to the matzahs. And right, so in England, you could go out in the summer, in the winter, just not on the night of Passover. So we understand that there's like some times where the environment, whether it's physical or spiritual, requires us to respond in particular ways. That's what the 9th of Av is. It's a time where the ask of the moment is not for us to be passive to try to avoid being vulnerable, but to be proactive to repair the source of that destruction. And it's a big principle in Jewish thought that, and you see this even in areas of the mundane of kashrus, right? In a vessel, if it's giving off taste, it can't absorb taste. It's one or the other, it's a binary. It says, remove yourself from evil and do good. If you're doing good, you cannot simultaneously be doing evil, because if you're doing evil, it's not good. So the idea of Tisha B'Av, right? It's a time that we're meant to reflect, we're meant to mourn. Not that we're sad, but that we're re-experiencing the mourning. That if this Tisha B'Av, it's a much deeper concept. We'll talk about it when we get to Pesach. The night of Passover is always the same night of the week as Tisha B'Av. I've spoken about this in other classes. There's one of the Gematria is known as an Atbash. The Aleph and the Taf, the first and the last letter, like an arc switch. The Bash is the Bays and the Shin, and it works in. So starting with the Aleph as the first day of Pesach, if, I don't know what it is this year. I have a calendar. So this year, the first night of Pesach, I know it's late. Everything's always late or early. It's never on time. The first night of Pesach is Friday night. So if we look in Av, the 9th of Av is also Friday night. We don't it gets pushed off, meaning we observe it Saturday night, but the 9th of Av is Friday night. So the way the rabbis say it is that the night of Tisha B'Av on the calendar is established on the night of Pesach. The deeper interpretation is that the type of Tisha B'Av will be established on the night of Pesach. Pesach is a communal holiday of coming together, the wicked, the simple, all the things. And I've written about this, if you're interested, in different places. But the night of Pesach is the time where we're supposed to come together as one. If we would get Pesach right, then it would establish that this year, that Tisha B'Av would be a Tisha B'Av of celebration. So that everything is connected. Everything's connected in all of the ways. And Jeremy, good to see you. And then we're going to go see some texts.
Well, I hate to keep us from getting to the text, but when you say repairing, how do you repair when you're being cautious? If you're being cautious during the month of Av, how does that repair the month of Av?
It's a great question. We think about things often as being in conflict or in competition. For example, on Yom Kippur, a person is supposed to fast. That's what the Torah says. The Torah also says a person is supposed to be healthy, right? And if it's not healthy to fast, you're not supposed to fast. In fact, you're not allowed to fast. Those things are not in competition. And so when we think about a person as being lenient in one, they're really being strict in the other. So when it comes to Tisha B'Av, right, a person who's being passive needs to be cautionary. A person who's being proactive to repair it, they don't have to be worried because they're doing the thing, right? The vulnerability comes when we're not doing the right thing. So a person who's being passive has to be careful. Okay, I'm not going to be engaged in the right things, so I have to be very careful, right? A person's engaged in it, you also have to be careful, but you're engaged in it, right? In this theological space, a person is part of the solution, and so therefore they don't have to worry about being vulnerable. All right, I'm going to share my screen, and I want to share with you more than meetings. Okay, great. I didn't mean to put that on her face. Okay, so the first text that I want to show everybody is Seerah, and then we're going to see a Saschar, and we'll give an introduction. But we've got 15 minutes, and I am optimistic. So the first thing we're going to do is open up Seerah. Oh, here it is. Safari. Safari is your friend, and you should get to know it. It's free and it's fantastic. So we're going to be in the Kabbalah section, and the first one here is Seerah. We're going to be in the Gra version. For this, we're going to be in the 5th chapter. And you'll notice here, there are 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. This is a much longer shmooze. There are 3 letters, the Aleph, the Mem, and the Shin, that are called the 3 mothers. There's an article there to be written about why there are 3 mothers, not for tonight. And then you have 7 letters that are known as the kfulos, the doubles. They can hold a dagesh, the dot that makes it a hard or soft sound, like bet, vet. The difference is the dot. There's 7 letters that can hold that dot. And there are 12 letters that can't. Those 12 letters that can't are known as the pshutais. Literally, pshutais means simple, like the pshat level. So it's the hey, vav, zayin, ches, tes, yud, etc. And these correspond to the 12 months. They translated as the 12 elementals. Sounds like a Marvel comic book, but okay. You look at this, it's easy. This is an example of where like the revealed, the concealed is revealed, because you can read this and they don't necessarily make sense. But okay, so we're going to scroll down to our month, which is governed by the letter Nun. This is also interesting here. Sometimes it's all very interesting. So it says as follows: Himlich ois Nun. God put a crown. What it really means is that the letter Nun governs. The language of Melech. God kind of anointed, God put in charge the letter Nun. Reach. Reach is sent. We have it all here. So God, this is not my translation and it's all gendered and all wrong, but God made the letter Nun king over smell, and God bound a crown to it and combined one with the other. The zodiac actually has its source in Judaism. And so it's the Scorpio. It's one of the reasons why, like, you'll find the dates of the zodiac don't align equally with the secular calendar, the Gregorian calendar, but they do basically align with the Jewish calendar for the most part. So Scorpio, which in Hebrew is it's scorpion. It's the word that's used like for in the pit with Yosef. It says the verse says the reik ve'ein b'mayim, that the pit was empty and it had no water in it. And Rashi points out that it was empty, then obviously it doesn't have water. So it was empty from water, but it had snakes and scorpions. All right. So Scorpio, Cheshvan in the year. Has to deal also do with the intestine and the soul, male and female. Okay. This you can all look up. I'm going to stop the share for a second. Does anyone know what is special about the letter Nun? Does anyone know? Yes, please, Leslie.
The thing I think of is that in Ashrei, it doesn't show up.
That's right. There's a lot that's special about the letter Nun, because there's a lot that's special about each of the letters. But you're right, in the alphabetical acrostic of Ashrei, there is no Nun. And in fact, the next verse starts Soimech with a Samech, Soimech l'chol ha'noiflim, that God supports all those who have fallen. Yes, Judy.
Well, it's weak. It drops out a lot. So I don't know how that fits in all of that.
Yes. And also, like, it speaks to Yavon, the word for Greece, is a small little line for the Yud. The Vav is a little bit of a longer line. And then the Nun is the longest line. It speaks to the debasement and the going down, the descension, right? Yeah. There was another hand, Sharon.
Hi. Isn't it one of the few letters, I think 7, that have a crown when written in the Torah?
The letter Nun, in fact, is the one that's flipped upside down by V'hiben Seerah Arain, right? It's its own little parsha where you see like these like bookends. Yeah, there's a lot that's special and unique, but when we think about the letter Nun in relationship to where we are in the calendar, it speaks a little bit. So sorry to say this a little bit better. The letter Nun represents Nefila. Nefila means to fall, and that's why it says Somech l'chol ha'niflim. God supports all those who have fallen, and so the letter Nun represents at least the potential for Nefila. In fact, I don't know if it might be a little bit backwards, but the letter Tzadi, which is a Tzadik for the righteous, is actually the letter Nun when it's a little bent over, and the letter Yud. The Yud represents the Yid, the soul kind of transcending, and the physical body going down. And the tzaddik, the righteous, is not somebody who's always doing the right thing. The tzaddik is the one whose intention. Ur zaru l'tzaddik. The light is planted for the righteous, because in the moment they're fighting. Uli yishrei le'simcha. Someone who's yashar, someone who wakes up in the morning and just wants to serve God, they're besimcha. It's the tzaddik. That's why it says the tzaddik falls 7 times and gets back up. The tzaddik is very much a holy struggle. So it's the struggle of the nun going down and then the yud going up. Okay, so we have here this idea of the nun. We also have here this idea of the reich of smell. Does anyone know what's special about smell? I don't know. This is such a weird framing. I should have done a better job. What's special about smell? Well, it's different than, right? Yeah. What's unique about, let's say, smell in the garden and the soul? Yeah, Leslie.
I always think of the phrase reach nichoach.
Reach nichoach. Yeah. It's not coincidental. Nichoach is a nun and a ches. It's also not coincidental. It's the same word as noyach, and it's the same letters as the word chen. And we're going to see here in the B'nai Yisachar, he puts it together. But there's something pleasant about smell. Pleasant. Reach nichoach. It's a pleasant scent. It's not coincidental. I should find a better phrase as I keep repeating it. That we deploy or we invoke the faculties of scent Saturday nights in that sad time where the soul, the neshama yisera, the additional soul, is leaving us from Shabbos. Soul is very connected to memory, and it's connected to the memory that we have in the garden. If you do a close read of the original sin, they saw the fruit, they touched it, they tasted it, right? All those things were defiled. It doesn't mention scent there, in part because God blew into our nostrils, right? The divine point of connection was through the nose, and as a result, it has a certain permanence to it. This is already, again, getting into the mystical spheres, but it's one of the reasons why on Shavuot, when we received the Torah, accustomed to have flowers, because Har Sinai that there was an elevated level of scent, and really our sensitivity to the divine in scent is also still exists. It's one of the reasons why a person, right, when you think about memory, you see a poster board for pizza. You don't start salivating the way when you smell it. It's much more powerful of a. All right. So I want to share here a couple of. Also, Ben, it's good to see you. It's good to see all sorts of people here. Some I know, so I don't know. I hope we get to know each other over the course of the year. But I want to share just one more. The B'nai Yisachar, it's a 2-volume set. I don't believe it's in English yet. It's 2 volumes. He dies about 100. He lives about 150 years ago. Rabbi of mine in Yeshiva, Rosh Yeshiva, Rav Schiller, said if you're a rationalist, you believe he had divine inspiration. Meaning, as a rationalist, the rationalist explanation for what he says is that he has divine inspiration. So this is on Sefaria. It's not in English, but it's the B'nai Yisachar. He wrote a lot of works. He wrote Igur Dekala. For those who were holding in like the different dynasties of Chassidus, Munkach kind of comes out from this track. And there's another work called Shar Yisachar from within that camp. But he writes each of the months, and he goes through what I think I have 2 opened. So here he says, so this is Cheshvan, discourse 1:1. There happens to be only one discourse in Cheshvan. It's the smallest of all of his writings. But Siruf Hashem HaNichbad Hamer B'zeh HaChodesh. So he, at the beginning of each one, he says, this is the way in which God's name is spelled for this month. It's always the same 4 letters, the Yud, the Vav, the Hey, and the other Hey. And here it's Vav, Hey, and then Yud. And Yotzim Pasuk, and it comes out from the verse. Each one of these manifestations of God's name has a corresponding verse where the first letter of each word spells God's name in this order. Sometimes here it's going to be a mixture of 2 verses, but it comes from a verse in Kisavai. I think I have it open up. So we're looking for Vav, Hey, Yud. So it's the end here, Vav, Hey, Yud. So this is Deuteronomy 26, and it's verse 15 and 16. And this speaks a little bit to the time that we're in. Look down from your holy abode, from heaven, and bless people, Israel, from the soil. You have given us the land with milk and honey, as you swore to our fathers or ancestors. And God commends you this day, etc. So it speaks to this space of the dynamic that we have to God. And he continues by pointing out that, oh, this is the other one, but we'll do here, and then we'll take questions. There are 12 tribes, and each tribe corresponds to each month. There are actually two different ways of doing this. One is in the order in which they're listed in Exodus. There's an order of the 12 tribes, and there's a different order of the way in which they encamped. And that's known as the Golim, the flags. So he writes here, Al Pi Seder HaDegolim, that in the order of the flags, HaChodesh Hazeh, this month corresponds to Menashe. Why? Because this month was also created through through scent, smells. And the smell is something that the soul benefits from. And you'll notice here that the word Menashe is the same, meaning Menashe from the 12 tribes. I know that Menashe is a son of Yosef. I know that there's 12 tribes of Israel, and I'm sure that you know that as well. It's all accounted for. But the word Menashe is the same letters as the word Neshama. Therefore, being that it was created, right, this corresponds. I know we're almost out of time, and I'm committed to ending on time. But what I see is kind of the intersection of these two concepts is that in Elul and then particularly in Tishrei, we have invested. We've invested, God's invested, and we're kind of storing up for the long winter. There are no holidays in this month. It's only going to get darker. Hanukkah, right, it prepares us for being able to see the light within the darkness, right? So we're meant to maintain this level of holiness, recognizing that the dominant identity is one of spirituality. It's Menashe, right? It's the neshama. It's the nun of nefila, of that, like, we're no longer wearing a kittel on Yom Kippur. It's no longer Kol Nidre. We've now gone back into the mundane, but we're not the same people. We have been recreated through this process, and we have within us the spiritual capacity to make it through the long winter. All right, I know that we just have a couple of minutes left, but thoughts or questions or reflections? Is this at all interesting? How many people have regret this is not what I signed up for?
Yeah.
I won't be offended if you don't come back. I hope you do. But again, I wanted to kind of front load this about months, and then next month we'll spend much more time focusing on the particular month. But anybody else have any other thoughts or questions?
Well, Rabbi?
Yeah, Jeremy, please.
What was the last thing you said? The nun of the what?
Of nefila, of falling.
Thank you.
No, for sure. Okay, friends. It's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure. It's good to be back. And Phyllis, was that a wave or did you have a question? It's a wave. Oh, thank you. All right, friends, take good care. Mishnah starts Monday morning. The other Gemara class knows when we start on Thursday. And, stay safe and take care of each other. And may this month be one that's renewed with only goodness for everybody, okay? Take good care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.